Back in the early 80s, everybody was going crazy over salt. You know, salt causes high blood pressure. Salt's going to kill you. Salt's going to give you a stroke. Everybody was bending over backwards to tell you how dangerous salt was. All these salt imitation seasonings came out. And then this company makes a pretzel and calls it Mr. Salty. Going against the tide, swimming against the tide. And in some ways, I can kind of relate to Mr. Salty. I have a lot of friends, good friends, that are really smart in marketing and YouTube, and they always tell me to stop talking about certain things because it's unpopular. And I said, well, that's what I believe. And they're like, well, you don't have to change your belief, just ignore those subjects. And I'm going to tell you a few of them in a minute. But first, I want to kind of give you a bigger picture of why I do what I do and why I say unpopular things all the time, even though I get unsubscribed. I mean, the worst that happened to me was the day after the 2020 election, and I talked about the irregularities of that election, and YouTube actually demonetized my entire channel, and then I lost like 1,000 subscribers like within a week. And I thought people were just angry with me over the politics until I realized my wife was unsubscribed, my daughter, my son-in-law, a couple of my friends. And so YouTube was unsubscribing these people. They had to resubscribe. And a lot of people were putting in the comments, yeah, I was unsubscribed too. And it was like that for about 6 months. I kept losing, normally you go up a little bit every day. I was going down every day. And then I had Father Grodi, Marcus Grodi's priest son, on this channel. I interviewed him, and at the end I asked for a blessing. And after his blessing, within 30 seconds, my son called me and was like, wow, you just got monetized. So I got remonetized. So, I only make about $100 a month, but something, helps out. Every penny helps these days. But I had friends, like well-meaning friends that know how to grow channels and stuff, tell me, you shouldn't talk about politics. You're going to offend a lot of people. And even though my main mission on this is to evangelize non-believers and to bring non-Catholics home to the Catholic Church, sometimes I see a need, to talk about politics. So I talk about it. And I usually lose subscribers when I do. And people get mad. Ronald Reagan used to say, Republicans think Democrats are dumb, but Democrats think Republicans are evil. Because Republican leaders will inform their constituents, and their constituents will make decisions and choices based on logic and reason, where Democrats usually just gaslight their constituents and get them angry, and they make decisions on emotion, like, oh, those Republicans are so evil, they're so inhumane, and they don't think logically. But I noticed today, and I think I know why, that you have that on both sides, where both sides think each other's evil. And I'm not just talking about the leadership, I'm talking about like individuals, like I've seen friends stop talking to each other because they voted different than them. That's emotional immaturity. I had Dr. Robert P. George on Blue Collar and a Scholar, and we were talking about his relationship with Dr. Cornel West. And these guys are very close friends. They love each other like brothers. Dr. West I think he's a Baptist, and Dr. George is a Catholic. Dr. George is very conservative politically. Dr. West is extremely liberal politically. And I said, how do you guys get along and be such good friends? And he says, because I know I could be wrong, so I listen to him. And he knows he could be wrong, so he listens to me. And I thought that was brilliant and honest. And I thought, if everybody could be like that, we could dialogue and talk. And that's how it was back in the day. I was always the lone conservative, dialoguing and debating Democrats all the time. And never did people get angry. We would laugh and joke and go back at each other, and we wouldn't stoop to name call them. But now that's where we're at. But I would add to what Dr. George said and say, give the person the benefit of the doubt that his intentions are good as well. He just has different ideas. And you have to show him why you believe your ideas are better. Not by calling them a name, or just walking away. I'm not listening. That's what people do. They unsubscribe to me. Like I recently defended Israel. I've had like 50 people unsubscribe just for that one issue recently. And I'm going to get to that issue in a minute. But I even actually had him scheduled, Dr. Cornel West, who I completely disagree with him on everything politically. But I do believe he's a sincere man. He's not an evil man. And I know he's a scholar. So I was willing to have him on and listen and then give my point of view. It wasn't going to be a debate, but I was going to disagree with him, I'm sure. And actually, I talked to his wife, the sweetest woman in the world. She's a doctor as well. And she said, yeah, she would like to, he would like to do it. He said he would do it. But it was in the heat of the presidential. He was running, I think, as a socialist. Because the Democrats, the Democrats are like the Politburo. They kicked him off. They kicked RFK Jr. That's what they do. And then they call the Republicans the fascists. But I was going to have him on, but it just hasn't worked out yet. Lord willing, we will. But I have no problem talking with people I disagree. And I have no problem saying unpopular things. But like I said, on YouTube, I'm not stupid. I see what's popular on YouTube. When Pope Francis was alive, everybody was trying to outdo everybody saying how bad Pope Francis was. Everybody was saying the same thing. Taking it to the next step. He's a heretic. No, he's not a heretic. He's an anti-pope. No, he's an antichrist. And even the guys that didn't want to say anything schismatic like that, they would say, well, he's the worst pope we had, but he's still our pope. And I come out Mr. Salty and make a video why I believe Pope Francis is a living saint. and I lose a bunch of subscribers. And then I think of a few more things I forgot to say, so I make another video. More reasons why I believe Pope Francis is a living saint. And I lose more subscribers. And I have people calling me, why are you doing this? Your channel should be growing faster than it is. Why are you doing this? I'm like, because this is what I believe. And, even way back, I remember talking about how I came out of the Protestant tradition to become Catholic because I realized the Catholic Church was there from the beginning. And I wanted to worship like they did in the beginning. And when my priest asked me, explained to me, I could take, the church allows communion in the hand or communion in the tongue. I said, well, how did they do it in the first century? And he said, in the hand. So I said, I want it that way. I want to do it like they did in the first century. And I remember making a video about that. And a guy that used to compliment me all the time in the comments said, I'm sorry, Blue Collar Catholic. Back then, nobody knew my name. I'm sorry, Blue Collar Catholic. I have to unsubscribe. You take it in the hand. That's blasphemy. Or that's a sacrilege or something. And so I lost people for that, So the latest thing was defending Israel, And again, it's very popular. You look on Catholic YouTube, every Catholic YouTuber is bashing Israel. Israel's the bad guy. And I have to tell you, this blows my mind. Like, why would you think the terrorists are the good guys and a democratic free country are the bad guys? And then everybody's thrown in these quotes. They always use the same quote, and it's real popular on YouTube. The same quote, they could say it verbatim. Pope Pius says we can't stop the Jews from going into Jerusalem, but we can't sanction it either. And I even made the video today, and I gave Ted Cruz's position, his dispensationalist position, and Tucker Carlson, both Protestant positions, his amillennialist and also replacement theology on Israel. And I said right from the beginning, I'm going to steel man it. I'm going to give the best argument, because Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson really didn't give good arguments for their sides. I'm going to give you the best argument like I would if I was a Protestant, because when I was a young Protestant, I was a dispensationalist. And as I matured in Christ, I became an amillennialist Protestant. And then I became a Catholic, and our position on Israel is different from both. See, they both have extremes. The Catholic position is balanced. The extreme of the dispensationalist says, Israel's got to become a nation. God's going to save them, and then the end will come. And they're still God's chosen people, and we shouldn't even try and convert them. And then amillennials will say, no, the church is the new Israel. Every place where it says Israel in the Bible, replace it with church. And the Catholic Church takes a balanced position, neither extreme. The Catholic Church says, yes, we are the new Israel, the spiritual Israel. But God still has a plan for Israel. God still has a plan for Israel in salvation history, the nation of Israel. And then I have someone in the comments like, oh, you should have stayed Protestants if you still believe dispensationalism. So either I gave a really good steelman argument for the dispensationalist Protestants, or this guy didn't watch the whole video and commented it before he finished the video. But either way, I lost a bunch of subscribers with that video. And the reason, let's see if I'm forgetting something. The reason I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing is because this is who I am and this is what I do. Even in person, when I dialogue politics, I'm not going to get angry. If I see someone getting angry, I'm just going to end it. They might think they won the argument, but I'm not going to fight over politics. I'm not going to lose a friend over politics. I'm not going to lose a relationship with a family member over politics. That's emotionally immature in my view. So I want to be an example on this channel how you dialogue. Well, you disagree or not. A lot of people disagree with me in the comments. I have people disagreeing with me all the time. And the only time the comments get deleted is when I put something in there and YouTube deletes my comment and apparently takes the whole thing down. Like I still can't understand how people are on the side of terrorists. It just blows my mind. We got to this mindset where our opponents are evil. So some people can't even recognize real evil when it's standing in your face. When you have Hamas beheading babies, literally, and filming it and bragging about it, sending it home to mom, look, I just beheaded a Jew, and this is reality. When you can't see that's real evil, there's a problem. So I'm going to just keep talking what I believe is the truth in love and be an example. Because like I said, it's not about who's right. It's about what's right, And again, I'm going to tell you what I believe, whether it's popular or unpopular. I'm just going to tell you what I believe. I could easily go on, like when everybody was bashing Pope Francis, I could have joined in. I probably would have had 100,000 subscribers by now. Now everybody's bashing Israel. I could go in, I know what they're saying. Like this guy today quoted Pope Pius X. He apparently didn't watch my whole video because I gave that quote, but I gave the whole thing in context, like about 100 sentences. They used like 3 sentences from that quote, and then I gave it in the context of what Pope St. Paul VI said about the Jews, what Pope St. John Paul II said about the Jews, what Pope Benedict XVI said about the Jews. You take all the Pope's teachings in context with the catechism, and I presented the Catholic position. But people are so caught up in their tribe that Israel's bad, that they're taking the side of Hamas savages, literal savages, evil men. And Iran who uses 5-year-old kids to clear out minefields. They blow up so their soldiers could advance across the minefields. This is the evil we're dealing with. And again, I'll probably lose more subscribers, but thank God I'm not afraid to work for a living. Otherwise, I'd be broke if I depended on this. But if you do like the dialogue, and again, I had someone say to me, Rob, I disagree with you, but I'm not going to unsubscribe. That showed me maturity. you know? So thank you, brother. You know who you are. You just commented today like that. And I have a lot of people like that. You know, the Democrat mayor of Ed Koch, probably the last moderate Democrat that ever lived, Ed Koch used to say, if you agree with me, 8 out of 12 of your most important issues, vote for me. If you agree with me, 12 out of 12 issues, you're not thinking for yourself. So think for yourself, use critical thinking. And if you disagree with me, tell me. I don't delete comments. YouTube deletes comments. Trust me, they delete a lot of my comments. My son's comments get deleted, my friends' comments, so I have no control of that. But I'm not going to delete your comment unless you blaspheme God or insult one of my guests. But you can insult me. I've been called a Kaiser. I've been called a Cafone. I've been called Baldy. I don't care, you know. This just doesn't bother me because it's just childish. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you guys. Why? Because some people are like, why does he always say such unpopular things? You know, just stick to evangelizing. You're good when you're sticking to the Catholic issues and the Catholic apologetics. But this is who I am. I'm not going to change, you know. And when I made this channel, it wasn't to get rich. It was to share my faith. And I was surprised when I got 100 subscribers. So anything more than 100 is just gravy on top of the potatoes. So God bless and stay Catholic.